Hey everyone! Everything is on fire and burning to the ground. Right now, we are at a time where pretty much everyone in my network, academics, researchers, scientists, federal and state staff, evaluators, consultants, people in tech and design, basically everyone is getting fired or losing funding or has the looming threat of those at any moment. So that means just about everyone I know and everyone they know until we reach the 6 degrees of separation is anxious, if not fully 100% terrified. And to be honest, that kind of includes me. So I wanted to make a video that could somehow, some way throw people a lifeline, a ray of hope, a way out, a way to float through the chaos. Because hope can get us through anything, and if we have hope, we can persevere. And even though I'm making this video during a time of crisis in the United States, this video and the advice I'm going to share with you, like Twinkies, is never going to expire. I consider this to be pretty evergreen type of advice. And the lifeline I want to share with you is based on this piece of art that I have that has the caption, "Find a Way." I shared this in my newsletter earlier in the year, but I have this piece of artwork that I came across in November 2016 or so when I needed a big dose of hope. And I found it in this piece of art. There was just something about this adorable color pencil sketch of a big whale floating in the air with different types of balloons that touched my heart. I know it's a popular theme. There is a lot of art with this type of image, but I really love this and I look at this a lot, and it's always somewhere in my office where I work. So my hope with this video is that maybe I can give you some ideas to help you find a way. So the official title of this video is about how to future-proof yourself and your career. By the way, I'm Dr. Echo Rivera. My PhD is in psychology, but I'm not a professor. I run my own visual communication company because, what I'm about to talk about happened to me. So let's get started. We're going to start in the bad place. First and foremost, job security is not a thing that exists. It's not real. I don't care where you are in the world. The idea that you have a job now, that the type of work, the specifics of what you do, the idea that you're going to do that until you retire is total fantasy. Something completely outside your control could make your entire profession completely obsolete. Climate change, AI automation, millennials, apparently. There are so many things I could list here, but you're probably anxious enough, so I'll kind of stop here. But look, none of it is under your control. That's the point. And it's not always necessarily a bad thing. Like, there are literally professions out there that are accelerating climate change. We need to end those professions. Or as new generations come, things that people want out of life or how they spend their time and their money, that's going to change. And that's not good or bad. That's just part of life. And even if your position isn't obsolete, even if it still exists or should exist, that's no guarantee you'll get hired for it when you need to be hired. Or that's no guarantee that you'll keep it. There's always going to be layoffs, and we've seen waves and waves of layoffs, especially in the tech area, which used to be considered the best thing to go for because it was high pay with job security. And recently, it's just really hard to get a job in a lot of industries. I'm an older millennial, and I can't think of a time in my adult life where anyone like my age was like, super easy to get a job. And that's only gotten worse as I've gotten older. Hundreds or thousands of applications for one job. And some of those might not even be jobs that actually exist. There are fake job listings now. So if you are lucky enough to eventually get a job, it might actually take you 6 months longer than you expected. Or in the academic space, first of all, it's incredibly competitive to get hired as a professor. It's grueling. It's a multi-stage process that leaves many people crushed every year. And if you don't get one this round, you have to wait like another year sometimes to try again. Plus, for decades now, universities have been erasing tenure track positions and replacing them with adjunct positions so they can exploit more people. And then, of course, there's just political and economic turmoil. So it's like, yeah, it's not an obsolete position, but things like company greed, capitalism, Republicans, etc., destroy the position itself and make it so that it's almost impossible or actually impossible to get the job or keep the job. But even if somehow you found a position that is immune to becoming obsolete and that whole list we just covered doesn't actually apply, there's one last thing that could be a wrench in this whole thing for you. And that's you. You will change over time, as you should. As you gain new experiences, meet new people, learn new things, you should be an evolving, growing human being. That means you may find yourself unhappy in your position. There is an obvious reason we can look to, which is low pay, maybe low benefits, or just as the cost of living increases, maybe your pay doesn't increase, and you just simply find you can't make ends meet with the current pay and benefits you have. But even beyond that, maybe you have job security, but to get that job meant you were stuck in some type of terrible working conditions. Maybe you need to work from home, but they refuse to let you, even though your job is just fine being done from home. Toxic bosses, toxic coworkers, hazardous conditions, abusive customers, failing to accommodate your accessibility needs, constant microaggressions, discriminations. Again, this alone could be a very long list. But at some point, you just might find that the place you work or the industry you work is just too toxic. Another problem you may face is that you want to keep growing. You want to get better positions. You want promotions. But lack of upward mobility could end up being something that happens in a few years. Maybe you get passed over for that promotion, or you're told that your pay cannot be increased. I hear this a lot online that people thought they were fine for a few years, and it wasn't until something like being passed over for a leadership position or years of no pay increases that they realized, oh, I can do better and I should do better. Now, those are examples of like the company itself causing some type of financial or emotional or physical harm to you. But there's a much less sinister thing that you need to consider, and that's boredom. Like, you might one day just wake up and realize you're just not into it anymore, and you just want to do something new. It could be as simple as that. Or on a slightly deeper level, you may find that your job is actually unfulfilling and that you're not finding the meaning or purpose that you used to in your job. And so you just need to pivot. You just need to do something new. Okay, so that was a lot of negativity. I swear I'm not just trying to make your anxiety worse or put you in a bad mood. What I'm saying is that no company exists to make you happy and fulfilled. Companies exist to extract your energy and time so they can turn around and make a giant profit that they're not going to share with you. And it is wise to plan for a day where you get fed up with it. And so you have the agency, you have the internal assets to make that pivot, whether it's trying to find a better job in the same industry or something else entirely. And again, even if you end up having like a great working environment and you're making a lot of money, there's still that factor of you wanting a new or different challenge in your life. Like, what are the odds that none of this happens to you ever for the rest of your working life? I think those odds are so slim. So the first question to ask yourself is, would you rather be totally unprepared for this non-zero, actually likely chance? Or are you the type who would rather be ready so that without even skipping a beat, you can pivot at any time you want to, or anytime you're forced to? I can't choose for you, obviously, and some people truly are fine with just like keeping their heads down, towing the line, and just sticking the course and hoping for the best. So that's totally fine. I totally get it. And I've got my fingers crossed for you. But if you want to be ready, then now I'll talk about how I think you can prepare for that in a way that is realistic and practical. First, what I want you to be aware of is anchors. And I want you to be mindful that you don't only build anchors for yourself. What do I mean by that? Most likely, you've been encouraged by everyone, family, friends, mentors, supervisors, the media, everyone. Everyone says to learn, quote, a hard skill. Learn a hard skill for job security, everyone says. First of all, I think the distinction between hard skills and soft skills is silly and unhelpful, but that rant is beyond the scope of this video. I just want you to know that I don't actually think in terms of hard skills versus soft skills, so I'm not going in that direction. What people sometimes mean, or maybe even often mean, when they say hard skills is that they recommend you specialize in something. So that's more what I'm talking about in this video. And that sounds smart. That sounds like good advice, but is it? Let's break it down. Hard skills or highly specialized skills, whatever word you want to use, to me, those are like anchors. That's how I think of them. In one sense, that is actually good. Sometimes we want to be anchored down. We want to be secure. We want to grow roots. There's stability in the anchor. Your anchor can be the central aspect of your career that you invest a ton of energy, time, practice in so you can become a high-level expert in it. It could be a lot of things, a particular software like R or Adobe or whatever, or it's a specific coding language like Python or SQL, or you get a PhD in a topic and you research or teach that topic, or, same for MDs and specializations. Or maybe you get training on a specific type of machine or device like CNC machines or whatever is used to use microchips. I don't know. Or you specialize in making a specific product like violins or artwork. Or maybe it's something digital in the digital world like website design. The list goes on, but the point here is that these do take a lot of time to develop and can be a specialization. And it's not inherently bad to have these. We do need people to have these skills. But what happens when someone else says, you're fired, you need to leave, or anything that I covered in the beginning? What if that happens? You have this big anchor now, don't you? Like in that spot right there. Now, all of a sudden, what used to make you feel secure makes you feel trapped. And it legitimately is a trap if you don't have a way out when you need it. So an anchor, a highly specialized skill, isn't bad to develop in and of itself. The problem comes in when you need to pivot and be flexible with the times. So what I want for everyone watching this video is to be careful about only building anchors, about only specializing. Instead, I want you to consider proactively building in transferable skills for job mobility. And that's the key here, transferable mobility. So those are the key words here, transferable and mobility. So if specialized skills are like anchors, what are the transferable skills like? Balloons. So I want you to build yourself not just anchors, but also balloons. Your balloons are secondary or parallel aspects of your career that you invest some energy, time, and practice in so you can become something like an intermediate or maybe an expert in it. Balloons are transferable skills, yes, but not just any transferable skill. A balloon, in the sense of what I'm talking about in this video, is a highly transferable skill that specifically provides mobility within your industry and across industries. So again, let's say something happens where you are losing your job or just any one of those things that we talked about. If all you have is an anchor, you're stuck. But if you've been developing balloons and they're strong enough, they can lift you and your anchor and carry you off to your next job. Or maybe you decide you want a whole new life. You decide you no longer want to be part of this industry at all. If all you have is an anchor, again, you are stuck. But if you have those balloons, you can cut off that anchor tying you to one specific role and use your balloons to, again, find a whole other way. That's why I think it's so helpful to focus on both of these. With both an anchor and an intentional set of balloons, you can take all of it and bop somewhere else, or you can cut ties and start anew. Maybe one day I'll make a video just about my whole journey that led me to this point, but for now, I'll just kind of say that part of the reason I'm so passionate about getting this message out is because I found myself needing some balloons before I even finished my PhD. In grad school, I was initially on a path where, with my PhD in psychology, I wanted to be a professor at an R1 university. But by the time I was finishing up my dissertation, I realized that I did not want to pursue the tenure track. That life was not for me at all. So I needed to pick up my research skills, my anchor in psychology and research and community-based participatory research, and land in a non-academic position where I still did research and things like that, which I was able to do thanks to my balloons. I ended up working at a nonprofit research and evaluation center. But just 3 years later, I found myself once again needing my balloons to carry me away. This time, though, I needed to cut the anchor, meaning I no longer wanted to conduct research or evaluation. And the only way I was able to do that is, again, because of the balloons I had developed on the side. Okay, so by now you're probably wondering, what are transferable skills that are good enough to meet this idea of being like a strong balloon that can carry you away? I have a framework to help you with that. So at the most basic level, a transferable skill is technically anything where, let's say you're doing it in one context and then you start doing that same thing in another context. So if you really sit down and think about it, chances are high you already have some balloons. And there are people who can help you figure out how to frame your past work into transferable skill language. I've posted some resources on that below. But although any balloon is helpful to have, you also want to think in terms of a scale or like a continuum, where you want either the quantity or quality of balloons that can carry your entire self and your anchor away. The goal is to have a unique combination of an anchor and then different types of balloons to make you competitive and desirable in a wide range of settings. And that was a little out there. So let me explain. What I mean is okay, so the transferable skills that are just part of your job, like the ones that you probably already have because you need those to do your job well, and you're actually held accountable if you don't do them well, those might count as balloons, but they're pretty weak in terms of this bigger goal that we have for them. So that's why I call them they're better than nothing balloons. Because it's yeah, it's good to have, but if you're required to do them well in your position, then it means anyone else in a similar position as you will have those same transferable skills. So they're not actually going to be all that special of a skill set. They're not really going to set you apart from anyone else. So you do need to go above and beyond for stronger balloons. So the balloons you want to be proactive about, intentional about, are those that are not necessary to do your current job well. These are things that will be unexpected for someone like you to have. A pleasant surprise that someone in your position was able to develop. A breath of fresh air in the industry. Those are the balloons to focus on and put energy into. Yes, obviously you need to do your original job well, but just also make sure you're building in time for unexpected balloons. So that's the first thing to look for. It's not part of your regular job responsibility. That's probably going to be a good balloon for you. Now, in most industries, you're probably going to end up with a long list of things. So how do you narrow it down from there? Well, there is something special that you can look for. Look for a golden balloon. If you have a golden balloon in your industry, your whole path to this just got a whole lot easier. What's a golden balloon? So I just said that strong balloons are ones that aren't required for your job, right? Well, a golden balloon can be found in situations where your industry, your colleagues, your supervisors, your peers are actually convinced it's a waste of time. They're like antagonistic towards it almost. A golden balloon is a skill that you and everyone else is discouraged from pursuing. What an opportunity! Because the end result of that is industry-wide. There is something that almost everyone around you is bad at or weak at. Like your entire industry is handing you the ticket for how to rise above everyone and have a unique skill set combination. Right there, you've just learned what could help you be different than almost everyone else who has the same anchor as you. They've made it so easy for you. So those are the first two options in my job mobility balloon choosing framework. A, look for transferable skills that aren't necessary to do your job well. Yes, they take additional effort and professional development and time and practice, but that alone is going to reduce the number of people who have your same anchor with the same set of balloons. And or B, see if you're lucky enough to have a golden balloon, which is something that actively your industry avoids and considers a waste of time and is typically notoriously bad at, like they have a reputation for being bad at that thing. Those two things will help, but still, there is a third way to find your balloons, and it might just be the most important one out of all three. The third way to find a balloon is to just find something that you enjoy doing. It might sound a little silly for me to say this, but I've had the luxury for most of my life to be able to pursue and do the things that I personally enjoy. There have been some moments where I felt guilty for that, mostly during grad school, but on the whole, I've always been just fine pursuing interests that I enjoy. It's been a combination of supportive family and supportive partner, but it's also just my personality. Like, I actually don't like work all that much. I work to live, not live to work. So I've almost always made time for things I personally enjoy, like hobbies, for example. But I've since learned that a lot of people have intense guilt over choosing to spend their time on something they enjoy over something that is, quote, productive. I know a lot of people struggle with feeling like they're lazy if they're not working or doing chores or something like that. Some people just can't sit on the couch and relax. So I think I want to be a little more aggressive about pushing back on that, because those intrusive thoughts telling you to keep specializing or learn those hard skills or be productive, I don't think that's actually helping you. I think that's the type of pressure and mindset that will prevent you from exploring some of the strongest balloons that are waiting for you. I think too many people, too often, choose to spend time deepening their specialization, their anchor, when maybe, just maybe, they should be doing what they enjoy and building up their balloons instead. I think people deserve to spend time on things they enjoy no matter what. Just inherently, I think human life should be more fun and enjoyable for everyone. So what I'm trying to say here is do something you enjoy, especially if it has nothing to do with your current job responsibilities or deepening your specialization. I think that's where the magic happens. Dr. Price has a book called Laziness Does Not Exist. That might be a good book if you really struggle with enjoying your time because you don't feel productive enough or that you're not working enough. So that's the job mobility balloon choosing framework, or the JMBCF. Okay, that's not going to take off, but either way, hopefully this helps you find your balloon or balloons. Just as one last recap, choose something not needed as part of your job requirement. Even better, find a golden balloon, which is something that people in your industry actively avoid and are probably very bad at. and or just pursue the unknown, the unguaranteed path led by your interests, especially ones that are not necessary to do your job well. If more of us do this, especially including that last one, I think more of us will have job mobility. Now, real quick, you might be wondering if I mean hobbies by saying interests. And it's kind of like yes and no, I guess. Like, overall, I hope that my video today and just my other videos in general can help chip away at the guilt or fear or anxiety you have about standing out, being unique, and just like doing things that you enjoy. And yes, hobbies can turn into the type of balloons that I'm talking about. That is definitely possible, maybe even likely. But I want to be clear about what I'm saying and what I'm not saying here in this video. I am not saying choose a hobby with the hopes you can monetize it later. That defeats the whole purpose of a hobby, in my opinion. What I'm saying more is like, okay, if we kind of separate the personal and professional life, what I'm saying is like, yeah, like I totally think everyone should have at least one non-monetized hobby in their life because it's enjoyable, it makes you happier, it helps prevent burnout. Like everybody deserves to like have something like a hobby in their life. It's just fulfilling to have one. So full stop, thumbs up, get a hobby. And on the professional side, which is like, you know, what you do to make a living, pay your bills, what is monetized. You have your anchor, your specialization, and the transferable balloons that come with that already because they're part of your job description. So like you do that in your professional world. And on top of that, for job mobility, for those transferable skills that are the strongest, within your professional world, apply the framework. So pursue your interests like within a professional context. Because again, everyone is focusing on anchors, right? In every industry, everyone is specializing. So that means you're going to have thousands or hundreds of thousands of other people with that same specialization as you. But the people who choose to follow this framework, I think, will be significantly more competitive than their peers, especially if you can do B or C or both. Because in that situation where everyone else has those same specialized skills, what's going to help you be irreplaceable, poachable, and or just more mobile? It's going to be your unique set of balloons. And that's the beauty and strength of this approach. With this strategic way of thinking, it inherently means that each person doing this is going to have their own combination because everybody has different interests, right? And some will sort of like naturally figure out that they just want like maybe one extra balloon and they actually want to be like a big expert in this. So one anchor, one balloon, both expert level. Some are going to want to do a lot of balloons, each of them maybe at like sort of like a maybe late beginner, early intermediate level. And then there's just going to be a mix of those too. So everybody can kind of have their own unique combination. Even if everybody is doing a golden balloon, it's like being able to pursue your special interests are still going to help you have that unique combination. So yeah, please build your balloons. That's how I think you will be able to have job mobility that will carry you through tough times. Now, just in case you're still thinking that you don't really need a plan for job mobility, you never want to leave your company or department or whatever, then I still encourage you to think about how valuable this approach is even in that situation. Because again, there's going to be things like layoffs that you have to worry about and you need to find another job in the same industry. Or there are things like promotions that you might want to get within your company. So having these balloons can help you rise above other people in your workplace. No matter what situation you find yourself in, you'll want a way to be competitive, and this is how you can do it. I see no downsides here. Okay, by now you're probably like, can you be more specific, please? Do you have some specific ideas about what balloons might be future-proof or worth pursuing? And of course I do. But if we really think about the framework, one person's anchor is another person's balloon and vice versa. Because it depends on what you already do for your job. It depends on your anchor. The whole idea is to do something that other people with your anchor probably aren't doing at all or don't do well, or have your unique personality and other interests kind of like blended in with that. So if you have a PhD in, let's say, sociology, people will expect you to have research skills, teaching skills, statistical analysis skills, project management skills, writing skills, right? Like those are like expected as part of your job. But they won't expect you to know something like web design, which is part of what makes it a balloon. That's why I'm giving you a framework here, so you can map out what the balloons are for your unique anchor. But with that said, I of course have a suggestion for you to consider, which won't be a surprise if you've watched any of my other videos. And it goes back to what helped me figure out my life and get my life in order when I needed those balloons. So I'm going to go into a little bit of detail here about sort of like my journey and my anchors and balloons and all that. So I'm almost 40 at the time of this video, and I'm about 10 years post PhD. So I've done a lot of things. In high school, I loved computers and thought my career would be in some type of web design or programming, as it was called back then. And that eventually evolved into like general design. And I still do this and I still work on this. I design my own website even today. Starting in undergrad, due to an intense fear of public speaking, I overcompensated, but then ended up developing presentation skills, public speaking skills, and design for communication skills. Also in undergrad, I was the office manager for our family business. I actually grew up in a world where my family ran a small business. My dad is a luthier, he makes violins, and so I was so lucky and had the privilege of being able to run that office and basically the whole admin side of a small business while earning my bachelor's degree. But I ended up choosing psychology, and I got a PhD in psychology, specifically the research side of things, not the clinical or therapy side. And I did that for over a decade until it was time for me to leave. And I did that for over a decade before I realized I just needed to do something else. I wanted to run my own company, and I really wanted to focus on design for communication. So I sort of like picked up those business skills again and continue those even to today. So looking back on it, a whole PhD in psychology, over a decade of experience, that puts that as my anchor. Now, with that type of anchor, do you see how unique it was for me to have these other skills? That's what made them my balloons. It's not normal for a psych PhD to know so much about things like web design or even just like general design. It's not normal for them to be able to run a business. That's not like a normal part of like what it takes to have a PhD in psychology and do research. And what's probably the most important part here is that academics and researchers and everyone in that world has a reputation as being really bad at communication. Death by PowerPoint, lectures, presentations, writing things in plain language, etc. And yet I had those skills. And I was specifically told that my design and communication skills is what set me apart and helped me get that first non-academic job. They specifically told me that after hiring me. My resume, my cover letter, and the portfolio that I submitted showed them I had design and communication skills and plain language skills that were not part of the normal package that PhDs have. In fact, they're usually very bad at those things. So my anchor checked the box and got me the interview, but my balloons got me hired. And when I realized I just didn't want to do research anymore, when I realized that my true value and passion was to help others get better at communication, all of my balloons helped with that. Web design, general design, okay, I can make my own website, I can design promo materials, social media graphics, YouTube videos, etc. Plus I can do business things, check, I can do this, I can run this business. And I have a special skill that others don't have and want. I can show them how to do this, or I could do it for them. That's how I got here. And that is why I feel so comfortable saying to you that in most professional industries, presentation skills are golden balloons. So if you want a specific skill to consider, this is it. By presentation, I mean like what I'm doing in this video. I have created presentation slides, I've written a script, I've put together the slide design, and I am narrating it to you. Anything like that, any type of talk, conference presentation, yeah, keynote, yeah, TED Talk, yeah, job talk, yeah, client presentation, whatever. That's what I mean by presentation skills. Presentation skills are not actively taught as a formal course in college or graduate school, so already it's something people don't typically learn. And usually there is a universal hate for presentations and a universal acceptance of death by PowerPoint. So really, almost no one is actually required to present well. No one is held accountable if they give death by PowerPoint all the time. And in both academia and in just about any professional position, there is an almost universal belief out there that the goal is to spend as little time on your slides as possible, and that presentations aren't as important as other things in the job. Somehow, word gets around that presentation skills are simultaneously so easy to learn that training isn't required, while everyone agrees that death by PowerPoint is everywhere and presentations are terrible everywhere, but we still somehow don't need to spend time or energy fixing it. There are so many contradictions here, which is also part of why people are generally not good at communication. And smart people in particular have a specific reputation as being terrible communicators. So big, giant, strong, sparkly, golden balloon. I am speaking from experience with myself and sharing what clients come back and tell me. Like, I remember once I gave an evaluation results presentation to nonprofit service providers. All of my colleagues were convinced that they wouldn't want to hear anything technical, but I still pushed and I explained things like scale reliability, validity. I shared psychometrics with them. And at the end, they were like, oh, wow. When Echo teaches this stuff, it's so easy to understand. And wow, this is the first time I've ever heard an academic speak and understand them. Because that's what a lot of people in this world do. They think that other people don't want to hear like technical information or data, but really it's just the way it's been communicated. And that's exactly the type of thing my clients hear after they've worked on their presentation skills. They hear things like, wow, that was the best presentation I've ever seen from a professor or scientist or someone from this company. They hear things like, I wish more professors or researchers or whatever presented like you. Or it's the thing that got them the job. Like when they're doing a job talk, for example. It's what will help you stand out and be impressive. Please tell me you see the power in that. Please tell me you get how that right there is competitive and how it's a golden balloon. If not, maybe it's because you're wondering about something. You might be wondering, well, wait, hold on. If it's not valued and if the industry tries to convince people to not spend time on it, why would I be rewarded for it? And that is a good question to ask. Definitely ask that question for anything you think is a golden balloon in your world, in your industry. I can answer this for you for presentation skills. The reason most industries avoid putting effort into presentation skills is because it's hard to create a good presentation. It's difficult. It's challenging. That's the core reason why. Some double negatives are coming your way, but they don't say, stop spending time on those slides because it's a bad skill to have. They don't say, oh, put presentation skills on the back burner because they don't want to watch an engaging presentation. They say it because it's max cope, as I think the kids say these days. Like I was hinting at earlier, this topic alone about like the weird excuses people make and the weird things people say about presentation skills is worthy of its own video, and I am working on that. So if you're kind of stuck here, worrying about other people not actually liking an accessible, visually engaging presentation, then keep an eye out for that. But for this video, I'm just going to reassure you that everyone loves an engaging presentation. Everyone, especially the people who are trying to tell others to stop working on their presentation skills. If you actually want to create an engaging presentation that impacts people, that's memorable, that changes their mind, that impresses them, that makes them want to hire you, You need a unique, comprehensive set of interdisciplinary skills: psychology in how people think and learn, graphic design so the slides are engaging and not confusing, general public speaking skills and the ability to deliver the presentation, storytelling or narrative building, writing a script, the tech side of it all, broadly information design or instructional design, and creative problem solving too. So yeah, it's pretty hard to do this. It takes a lot of different skills. It's not the easiest thing in the world. That is precisely why it's such a golden balloon. Most people love when they see engaging presentations. Most people want to see an engaging presentation. I would say everybody does. No one wants to see a boring presentation. But most people will make the mistake of thinking only so-called natural speakers can do them, which isn't true. But because it does take effort to learn, few people actually spend time doing it. That's why you will shine so bright if you can deliver better presentations than everyone around you. People are really missing out when they don't work on their presentation skills, because being able to create a powerful presentation opens up some major doors for you. Did you know that people get paid to speak? Like actually paid well? Like $10,000 per day type of money is actually possible for normal people. That's a normal thing that happens in the public speaking industry. These $500 stipends that academia keeps offering people is a joke. There is real money to be made if you have an idea that you really need people to hear and you can communicate that in powerful ways. So there's definitely money in it, which again is a good reason to work on balloons like this. Even if you want to stay at your company forever, you can do this on the side as a side hustle. But let's think beyond money. Let's just take a look at these skills again. Each one of these on its own is a highly desirable, transferable skill. But if you have them all together, you actually become more than just these parts. You become an expert in communication design, all at once. Presentation skills translate into being an expert in communication design. And that directly helps you develop other skills or do other cool things depending on your personal interests. To do this well, you have to be able to speak in plain language and tailor to your audience for it to be a good presentation. Well, that by default can help you in interviews or press releases or anything like that. Design skills translate right into report design, data visualization, print and poster graphics, social media graphics, web design. It can also be the gateway into things like illustrating and comics if you like that, or videos or cool things like stickers and workbooks. All of these can stem from this set of interdisciplinary skills. I am able to do all of these things. You can see my blog or my course for comics and illustrations that I have done. I've made stickers, I've made workbooks, all of the above. And it all started by honing my presentation design skills. That is the center of everything. That is why I think presentation skills, especially those that further develop into broad communication design, is one of the most future-proof skills you can develop. Do you see how having these skills can land you in different places and different industries? Or at least make you shine within your own industry? Now, I obviously can't predict the future, but at the end of the day, what this is, what communication design skills, what presentation design skills are, is the ability to share complicated, sometimes boring, information in ways that people understand, believe, and actually use to change their minds or their behavior. What better skill is there right now? Especially one that's going to be a little secondary to your anchor. What better skill is there right now? In what situation would this ever be obsolete? I mean, anything is possible, I guess, but I don't think generative AI is going to be able to do that. I think at best, it will just be filler content, or maybe it can do some design or photo things. It might be able to do some very specific things from that list, But to create the whole package from start to finish, a presentation in plain, engaging language that gives people goosebumps and changes the way they think about the world, call me a Luddite if you must, but I think a human needs to do that. I think people are going to be able to tell when something was written by a bot, and it will always have something missing. Some spark or sparkle won't be there. And I know right now a lot of people think this is all cool and stuff, but I think there's a real chance people are also going to get sick of it real fast. Plus, it's like destroying the planet, which is already not doing okay. That's why if you come in with something custom, engaging, powerful, something like they've never seen before, and it's human made, you are going to be a breath of fresh air. You are going to be able to rise up from that sea of people who look and sound just like each other or just like a bot, and they're going to flock to you. So I hope that today I've given you something to help you find your way. I don't have all the answers, no one does, but I really don't think there is any specialization that will keep your job and income safe forever, or it won't keep you happy forever. So anyone who tries to tell you otherwise is lying. They're lying to you or to themselves. So please, please don't get stuck with just an anchor. Have a way out. Have a way out to pull up the anchor and float somewhere else, or have a way to cut off the anchor and start something new. There are ways to be strategic about this. Hopefully my job mobility balloon choosing framework can help you with that. Just look for what other people don't do as part of the job. Even better if it's something they actively avoid or are bad at. Finally, you can also just let yourself experiment, create, and pursue what interests you. There is nothing wrong with that. By the way, this entire thing was made in PowerPoint. This was just a PowerPoint presentation. And if you would like to build up your presentation skills as your balloon or one of your balloons, I have a whole masterclass waiting for you. It's not a PowerPoint training. It is software neutral, so you can use whatever slide software you want. My tech videos are mostly on YouTube, so my course is really just focused on the strategy. If you watch this whole thing, like if you're here listening to me say these words, then that tells me you're at least interested in developing this skill. So you've checked that boxes. And hopefully I've convinced you that presentation skills are that golden balloon. So check out the links below to learn more about my course. I do also have design services and consultation calls, so I can help you with visual communication in general, not just slides, so report design, infographics, website graphics, comics, social media graphics, etc. My offerings do change from time to time, but links to everything are in the description below if you're ever interested. All right, my friend, good luck out there. Take care and please have some fun. All right, see you in the next video. Bye now.